I think religion is the container. I think it offers an infrastructure for community. I think it presents rituals and familiarity and community. And then it's a business, you know.
So Reverend Cathy Bristow.
Yeah.
It is so good to see you.
And you. Absolutely, yeah.
I've missed you. I've missed us, the conversations that we often have.
Yeah.
You know, I've had the pleasure of working with you. You are a reverend. You are an interfaith minister. You are the founder of Bridges Consulting. And you and I have done work where we have gotten to serve communities of people. And one of the things that I've always loved about your journey, is that it is a journey about evolving as a person. And evolving not just for the betterment of you, but in order to serve people better in our communities. And so if you would just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you became an interfaith minister.
Wow. Journey. Yeah. 75 years of tricking and dancing and loving and living. Wow. Yeah. I don't think for sure where I am today wasn't linear. You know, at best it was polka dots. I intersected and moved through life through a lot of corporate experiences that from the outside looked like what people thought was success. And it was, I checked off the boxes, made the money, got to travel, those sorts of things. There was always a yearning to connect people, to build community, so that was here. I got a chance to work in Japan and in Europe. And it was always, well, how do we build community? We can make money, but how do we build community? How do people do this? So they go home at night and feel like they matter. What do we do? I believe that my going to seminary was that search for the oneness that exists in our humanity, that quest to be one, to be loved, to be cared for, that we can give, that's so powerful and so easy. And I wanted to formalize that. I started using meditation and silence when I was working for law firms doing consulting. They wanted to talk about race and tension. I did too. However, I used silence and meditation. And I saw the shift in the people, not because I taught them things, because they're smart people. They could read. What I saw was when we did meditation and we did visualization and silence, there was a change in the energy in the room. So the entry point got me in, as it did with most of my business, with content and intellect. What I think I offer and what I believe I have been graced with is to be fueled by the spirit of life. So it doesn't have a name. It doesn't really have a religion. That's why it's interfaith. I think that might be an easy way to talk about stuff that we don't have words for, So that's where I landed. And it's been a wonderful journey. It's a surprise to my family, So I went from being a militant activist in the 60s to an interfaith minister, but they're the same thing, looking for love, looking for community, right? Just different ways, yeah. So here I am. And now that I'm back in school, working on my doctorate's degree, and loving it. And it's essentially the same thing. I'm looking at the stories of Black women as being restorative and giving resilience. So in circle, because I think the form matters, like we're here, in circle, having Black women tell stories of racialized misogyny and then ending those stories with, and I'm here with you now. And I'm here with you now. And watching them transform and myself. So that's a long answer, but that's a big question, and it's got a lot of touch points. And it gives me joy. It gives me joy every day I wake up.
Well, that's a powerful answer. And like you said, there's a lot of touch points.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out for me is when you talk about these women telling stories and ending it with, "But I am with you now."
Yeah.
It feels like you bring them from the trauma to the present.
Exactly.
It is a healing journey that is done through storytelling, but that is also done through connection.
Yeah.
And I often talk to people about just the power of connection and sort of relate it back to the brain. Because what makes the brain so incredible is that all these nerve cells, neurons are connected.
Yeah.
And whenever there is any brain disorder, that's because there's a breakdown in connection. And we see the same thing with people, right? When there's a breakdown in connection between couples, there's separation and divorce. Between communities, you have neighbors that aren't getting along. Between countries,
Right.
you have war.
Right.
So I think that what you're doing is so incredibly powerful. You also mentioned meditation and visualization. What was the kind of shift that you saw in the rooms when you asked people to meditate and to visualize?
Well, two things. I saw a shift and I felt a shift. One of the women made a declaration that she was not spiritual, she was not religious, she was here because she respected me and that she wanted to give me support for my research. And the visualization that we used was to go to a time that you felt joy or happiness. Could be big or small. Maybe it was watching a baby laugh or puppies play or something big that's personal. And then put yourself back there. Take yourself back there. Visualize it. Now, what did you feel? What made you smile? What happened? And call those feelings back. And I said, we can't call back pain, but we can call back joy. And so we visualized what I call INJOY. Get in the joy. Where is it? Are you there? And I watched these women smile with their eyes closed and cry. And not cry because they were in the joy. They were in the joy. And this woman who said, I don't believe in that. She said, I could do enjoy, but I'm not sure about the rest. And I said, then that can be your spirituality, your religion or whatever. But you found that spot. You found that sweet spot to go back and live there and be that and get into that moment. The other thing I felt was there was a stillness in the room that is different from just being quiet. So the difference between the silence and the stillness. Okay, so silence, things get quiet. No noise, no talking, no whatever that gets that organ excited. The stillness is a physical and emotional experience where you see shoulders go down. Right. And you see people relax their necks. And you see the hands kind of fold into the lap. And you hear, and it changed.
Yeah.
It changed. And the post questions that I did for the research was, can you describe that experience? Some of them said that they thought it might be the presence of God. Some said, they weren't sure, but they felt something. I felt something. And I felt intensely connected to these women. Intensely. Like, these are my besties. You know, it was great. Yeah. It was great. And I don't know all the answers to why it happens, but I can say firmly that I'm a witness to it did happen. And then I've got 13 women who in different words have experienced something in the stillness that was rejuvenating and restorative. Yeah.
And I love what you just said. And for the audience, I mean, the difference between quietness and stillness, for me, what it really means is that quietness, yes, there's no sound, but stillness, you feel safe and you feel in the presence of God. And I think that is incredible.
It's amazing, right?
That's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing that you were able to do that, not just for yourself, but for the community of these women.
See, I don't think it's amazing. I think we can all do that.
Yeah.
I think anybody can do it. I think a child can do it.
Yeah.
Because I think the presence is always there. I think it's in our breath. I said to the women at the beginning, so why do you think it is that we can't hold our breath and kill ourselves? What makes that trigger just not work? I wanted to do that just so that we could make some real life connections with some things happen in us and about us that don't have an answer.
Yeah. What I think is incredibly powerful is you talk about visualization.
Yeah.
And I always say that vision is the one sense that has an entire lobe in the brain dedicated to it, the occipital lobe. And so when you visualize something, you're activating almost 1/4 of your brain, if not more. But assuming, let's say, all lobes is sort of equal, you're activating the occipital lobe. And when it comes to the brain, whether you visualize something or experience it in real life, your brain doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So visualizing it for the brain is like you're actually experiencing it. And that makes it incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Now, talk a lot about meditation, visualization. You are an interfaith minister. You do work in a church. How is it bringing meditation and visualization to church? And to where's that intersection between meditation and religion?
Isn't that interesting? Well, I think religion is the container. I think it offers an infrastructure for community. I think it presents rituals and familiarity and community. And then it's a business, But that's not bad. It just is. Yeah. So the intersection is, I think, in the worship, in the different ways that people worship, in the emotional connection that people hear from the music, because music is transformative,
Yeah.
And actually, I think the words matter, but I think the vibrations are more important.
Yeah.
So when those drums start, it doesn't matter if anybody sings, and so that can be meditative.
Mm-hmm.
When singers don't use words and they just kind of hum or moan, that's meditative. I think meditation is much broader than just getting on the pillow.
Yeah.
I can meditate walking down 116th Street, give a singular focus, give myself ease, and I can have my eyes wide open and move my legs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's great intersections, I think. Yeah.
And I think one of the most powerful things you just said is that meditation can almost be anything. People feel like they're supposed to sit there, arms in a certain position. And so they're supposed to clear their mind of any thoughts. And meditation for me, oftentimes, is a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Right? It is just, it literally can be anything. It could be listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, I've been listening to certain sounds as I'm driving, and that's very meditative for me.
Wow. Yeah.
So we've talked about meditation. We've talked about visualization, music.
Yeah.
What a lot of the work that you and I have done together centers around contemplative practices, which all those three are contemplative practices.
Exactly.
For people who don't know, what's a contemplative practice for you? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. It means that, first of all, thank you for that, because it sounds like it's something that is lofty, and it's not. It's a singular focus that we can, with intention and attention, give our brains and our body that focus. So you said you listen to sounds when you're driving. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to stop driving. You're still going to watch the traffic and all that. However, the music or whatever you're paying attention, you give a singular focus. And what results in, that's contemplative practice, is an ease, is a physical relaxation, is a decrease in what we experience physically as the tension. I always say the shoulders come down.
Yeah.
Leave the earlobes. And there is a physical sense of letting go. So it can be painting, it can be knitting, it can be walking. There's so many ways that we can, with intention, use contemplative practices to give ourselves ease, to heal ourselves, and to feel a sense of well-being just by doing it, you know? Yeah.
For me, a lot of times contemplative practices almost put you in like a flow state. You are so in the moment. It's almost like the external world doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's incredibly powerful. What are some other examples of contemplative practices that people can do every day on their own?
It's a great question. So some people wash dishes. Pay attention. You know, I'm putting the rag in the water, soaping it, rocking, pushing it around the plate. It's giving that attention. It can be with intention walking to your car, getting in your car. My granddaughter and I spend a fair amount of time on the phone. And sometimes we FaceTime. And I love it because we do breathing. She'll say, I'm through talking, Grandma. Or you still want to say something? Let's just breathe. You know, and so we're just there. She lays her head back and we just breathe together. So your breath is always with you, you know, when we're alive. And so paying attention to that is another contemplative practice that is available all the time if you're awake. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned your breath. A few months ago, I was seeing a patient, and the patient needed to get a CAT scan, which is a sort of a 2-minute test. They go into a donut hole, but for a lot of patients, that can be very anxiety provoking. And so the nurse says to me, this patient does not want to sit still for the CAT scan. Can we just give her something? And I'm like, I am not sedating this patient for a 2-minute test. That is not going to happen. Right. So, and I was seeing the person virtually. So I said, roll the cart into the CAT scan room, and I'm going to just talk to the patient. And I spoke to the patient and just had the patient focus on his breath. And he was able to do the CAT scan, no problem. And in medicine, where we are so quick to give somebody something to sort of ease their anxiety, which, you know, a lot of these medications can have side effects. And yet the power lies within us.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes just lies within our breath.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some other contemplative practices can be even writing. Journaling is a powerful one.
Yeah.
Right? You've mentioned music. How do you use contemplative practices in your daily life? And what's the purpose that you're using them for?
Wow. How? I use them throughout the day because to me, it means I'm fully awake. You know, if I'm trying to take in everything and feel everything and be everywhere in terms of my attention, I don't feel as intensely awake and alive as when I just take a deep breath and say, all is well. You know, I had an experience recently where there was a lot of trauma and other things that happened that there were many people who offered a lot of ways for me to get comfortable, most of which were narcotics or something else, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's negative, but some of those don't take all the pain away. Let's be honest. I mean, they may, they'll make you high, but there is pain that does not go away with narcotics. Absolutely. And I said to one of the providers, I said, you know what I'd like to do is, can you give me 5? And he said, beg your pardon. I said, just give me 5 minutes. Let me be alone. Let me just breathe and pray. And then you come back and we're not gonna do that. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. Are you sure? And so he didn't give me quite 5 minutes. And I did deep breathing. I took myself back to a very special place at the beach in terms of visualization and what I saw there. I can see it right now. And there's tortoises there and there's beautiful foliage there. I can hear the ocean there. I mean, I can get there right now. And so when he came back in, he said, are you ready? And I said, yeah, I found a new location. Just go ahead and do it now. Do it now. Yeah. Did it hurt? Absolutely. Was I able to move through it without making everything in me a horror show? Yeah. Yeah, because it was competing with that beach and those tortoise and that ocean and that smell. So it diminished the intensity, I'm sure. Even if it didn't, I got through it with a different mental attitude. And whatever the drugs might have done, didn't do it. And the doctor said to me, he sort of laughed. He said, so what did you do? And I said, you really want to know? And we talked a little bit about it. In fact, we are now talking about me meeting with it's a woman, some of her colleagues about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. It sort of takes me back to when I had my kidney transplant, which can be very, very painful. Any surgery can be painful. And, they want to give you all these drugs, IV, pills, and all these things. And I was like, no, I'm good. And what I did was visualize where the surgery took place. I just visualized the pain getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Right? And like, to your point, does the pain completely go away? Absolutely not.
No.
Right? A lot of people expect that. They expect to be completely pain-free.
Pain-free, right.
Well, that's not realistic.
No, it's not.
Right? But it limited that pain.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain can only focus on so much at any given time. So you choose. Do you want to focus on the beach and tortoises?
Yeah.
Or do you want to focus on the pain?
Exactly.
And so I think what you did was just incredibly powerful. And it's a lesson, not just for people experiencing pain, but for their providers, for their healthcare providers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess when I say we, I mean people. You just said we think that we can get to no pain. Nah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, some of the work that we did wasn't just for sort of people in the community, but it was for the providers that were taking care of themselves.
Exactly. Over at the hospital.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was interesting that they had not experienced tools to decrease the stress and the trauma they were having from going from one sick person to the other.
Right.
From one sick person to the other. Nobody comes to the doctor and say, listen, I want to tell you how much I like you.
Right.
And I think you're really good. And I'm so glad you went to college. And I'm really happy that you've got all these expertise. See you. Everybody who comes got something wrong that they want you to fix.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've lived it.
Yeah.
And you're expected to take care of a patient who's incredibly sick, sometimes may die right in front of you, and then go to the next person. Yeah. And go to the next person.
Yeah.
With no time to sort of debrief, to process what just happened, to think about what just happened. And it's incredibly difficult and overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about the doctors and nurses, even the janitors who play such an important role in the hospitals, keeping the hospitals clean and safe and mitigating infection, probably do a better job than the healthcare providers. Mm-hmm. But they're expected to clean up blood and guts and go to their next task. Mm-hmm. Right? It's completely unrealistic. And I think this is where contemplative practices can just be so incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we helped a lot of people with. Mm-hmm. You did mention that you are in a healing sort of journey right now.
I am.
What has that healing process been like for you?
Wow. See, I'm smiling and I'm in pain. And I've been in pain since February 9th. And I'm not smiling because of the pain. I'm smiling because the consistent and overwhelming kindness I have experienced in the midst of what was a hell experience. Yeah. Just kindness, Philippe. Everybody from the people who wear uniforms that we call police, who are people just like me and you, mm-hmm. who got a job that I don't know what we expect them to do, who were so sweet to me, to nurses and all sorts of people. And my therapist calls it a healing vortex. I think she's right, that there is an energy that happens in the body that begins to heal. And that because I am healing and I know I am healing, I look for healing and I find it. So I find it at the park. I find it in your smile. I find it. It energizes and helps the magic, the God energy that heals. You as a doctor do all the things. You cut them up, whatever you do, you stitch them up, and then you say, now you're going to heal. But you don't do that. You don't do that. And it's available for me. And I have accessed the power of healing.
Right.
I know without a doubt that I'm sitting here, that I walked in here because I believe, I see, I move toward, I even smell. I use all my senses to attract healing.
Yeah.
I do. And I'm healing. The doctor and I had great conversations because there were a lot of cautions. You're 75 and what's happened, you're going to be okay. You might not be able to this, and this may not be available, and you probably shouldn't count on that. And I said to him, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I will walk.
Yeah.
I will run. I will swim. I will bike. And I want you to do what you do, and then believe that I know that will be available. And you watch me walk in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not magic, and it's not woo. That power and the healing vortex, as she calls it, is in all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's incredible because as doctors, we may set bones.
Mm-hmm.
We may take out something that we feel like doesn't belong there, but it's the body that does the healing.
Absolutely.
And the thought processes that you have are incredibly important for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're making a decision to call all the healing that you have around you. I see people who do just the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I see people where you give them a plan for healing and they're like, well, what if that plan doesn't work? And then what if the next plan doesn't work?
Yeah.
And they're like, with your mindset, nothing's going to work.
Right. Right. Right.
And I think it's just a testimony to just how strong of a person that you are and positive of a person that you are, that you're calling sort of all this healing into you.
I think it's more a testimony. Thank you for that. I think it's more a testimony of the power of the human spirit, that what we're talking about is how I'm using it, but I don't think it's just me. I think it's everybody. If we first recognize that capacity and capability is part of our humanity. And it's so easy to access, so easy. And I respect these doctors who wanted to caution me. I do, not to expect too much, but I also didn't want to engage in that conversation, because then I'm thinking, maybe I won't. I'm telling myself a story that I'm going to follow the story. I'm now telling myself the story that I believe, and I'm following that story.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty simple, but it is. And my story is I'm healing.
Yeah.
My story is I am healed here. Today I am healed, and I will continue to heal. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so mindful of the messages that I give myself.
Yeah.
The messages that I allow other people to give me. Mindful of what I feed my brain, even in terms of what I listen to or may watch on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the impact that has.
Exactly.
One negative message from somebody that, for whatever reason, latches itself into my brain may completely throw off my plan.
Yeah.
And when my plan was to heal from kidney disease, when my plan was to not be on dialysis for a long period of time, when my plan was to get a transplant and heal from that, I could only surround with people that sort of boosted that message for me.
Absolutely. And you begin to attract people who do.
Absolutely.
That's what's happened to me, is that the people who are around me, I described to you before, my visualization of this whole community that I see that's around me, that is loving and caring. And that's my visualization. It makes me feel safe in a place where I wasn't feeling safe. And the other big gift is freedom, Yeah, freedom. So that healing journey, this leg, this girl right here, boom, 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 has been transformative.
Yeah.
Because I'm now living what I believed and saw bits and pieces of. It's a huge, taste of my life right now. And living with pain every day has really taught me that I can companion that pain.
Yeah.
Don't push it away. It just is. It just is. And that I look at it as that means I'm healing. The bones and the nerves and the muscles, they're banging in there. They're connecting, they're getting to know each other again. They're moving and grooving. And so what I feel is pain.
Yeah.
But that pain, I'm healing. Yeah.
And I think that you have not let this limit you. Just the fact that you are here today.
Yeah.
Right. So you're in that healing process. You're not being limited, which I think is also incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
What are some things, let's say 3 or 4 things that people can start doing today to help them on their healing journey, whatever that may look like for them?
Wow. That's a big question. And I think the first thing maybe is to believe that I can. To believe that I can. And then that whole idea of metacognition, think about what you're thinking about. Notice, you just said you're careful about your thoughts and what you watch and notice what you're taking in. We talk about diets for food all the time. Eat healthy. But we don't think about visualize healthy, smell healthy, look healthy, listen healthy. That might be more powerful than the stuff we put in our body to eat. All that
Absolutely.
other stuff we're taking in. So be aware of what I'm ingesting in my senses. What am I looking at? Who am I listening to? What am I smelling? What am I thinking about that? Turn it. It's what I just described about my pain is my companion. And that my pain is my physical signal that this girl's healing. There's some work going on there. There's a bunch of little things working. And I guess the other is to use contemplative practices. Whatever it is, that singular focus of something, washing dishes, walking, listening to music, dancing, something that you have a singular focus that gives you ease. Because I believe that ease energizes that healing vortex.
Reverend Cathy, thank you so much for being here. This has been wonderful.
My pleasure.
You know that I am one of your biggest fans. I'm happy to see that you are doing better, that you are healing.
Yeah.
And know that I always love you.
Oh, thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to catch up and talk. Thank you.
And for all of you out there, you've been watching another episode of the Surviving Your Brain podcast. We'll see you soon.